My name is Lyzette Hoffman. I'm the executive editor at Acta Theologica. Acta Theologica is, in a certain sense, based at the Faculty of Theology and Religion. So we manage the journal, but of course our authors and readership is much wider than just the faculty or the country. I'm involved with the daily, day-to-day work of the journal, receiving articles, corresponding with authors, reviewers, the publishers. I work with from acceptance of the article till the proofreading and the publishing in the end. I've been with ACTA since 2009, and it's just as tripled in the sense of the number of articles we receive, the refining of the processes that we used from then till now. So the workload has really more than tripled. So that's really helpful that it is seen as a big part of my job description. Part of my job description was also that I must also be, I've got a doctorate in theology, so I must also be literate in the field that I work with. And I'm also, to a limited extent, possible for me to proofread Greek and Hebrew. My role, it must be, you must have kind of a basic knowledge of some of those things to help you to do your work more effectively.
For listeners, readers, for anybody not that familiar with Acta Theologica, can you tell us a little bit more about your focus and scope?
Yes. Now, the journal is an internationally established peer-reviewed academic journal, and it's listed in various indices, including the Web of Science and Cielo South Africa. As I already said, it's hosted by the Faculty of Theology and Religion at the University of the Free State. The journal embraces both its rootedness in the African continent as well as the global public sphere of theological research. So our publishing, we focus on innovative, interdisciplinary and contextual theological knowledge. That is our focus, and that is the kind of articles that we want to publish.
So do you find that being an open access journal, you're talking about interdisciplinary research, do you find that you're more visible in a sense for people to contribute to interdisciplinary research?
Yeah, I definitely found that being open access helps in broadening your authorship. But open access is not enough if you're not listed or indexed in various places. For example, I found that we were indexed in Cielo, I think from 2012 or 15 or something. And from then on, there was definitely a very big change in the authorship. That we've received authors from many other places. So being open access but not visible doesn't really help. That increases then in your reviewers, their possible reviews in the end. Then your articles are cited in more places. For example, we found Eastern Europe, Africa, South America. We've got more authors and then also used reviewers from those parts that we didn't receive before. Open access is a very good thing, and I think that is the way to go. But it's interesting for me, when I did a bit of a read up on this, that only 15% of the Web of Science journals are open access. I didn't realize that. And then some of them are golden, which is the open access from the beginning. Other are green, which is open access after a while, or just parts of it. So it's just 15%. That's really not much. So open access is good, and I think it really must be growing. But it's not enough. You must be visible. Visibility is increased when you're indexed in different places. Then more people will find you. So you must be sure you are visible.
Do you do anything else? For example, do you use social media to increase your visibility?
No, we don't use that so much, because then you must go full out for it or not. And otherwise it will just do more damage than good. So, and because we're not using a rolling publication, we publish 2 specific or 3 or 4 specific issues per year. We don't have a rolling publication publishing. I think if you've got a rolling publication, if you have a Twitter, you can tweet now, we've published this article, but we don't do that. We don't do rolling publication. So what we use rather for, in the sense of making the journal more visible, is interviewing well-known scholars in the journal, and inviting well-known scholars for articles, inviting them as reviewers, and that makes it more visible in a specific circle, and they will then in their circle again make people aware of Acta Theologica. So that is kind of the route we use to make us more visible.
The idea that I got that you are in a very competitive field with regards to academic journals. If you had to convince an author to rather publish with you, I almost want to say, what is unique about your theological journal in South Africa or internationally that would make an author publish with you rather than any other accredited journal?
Yeah, that is one of the kind of the issue with theological journals in South Africa specifically. I can't remember the exact number, but there's something like more than 10 theological journals just in South Africa. So that is really something that I must work on to help people, authors to decide to rather publish with Acta. I think one is on the process that we use. We have a two-phase review process, and the first phase usually takes just a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Then you already can have a yay or a nay, and then you can know, okay, maybe I should move on, or my article is going to phase 2. So that helps you in the sense that it's a quicker process, that you then know, okay, there's a chance and I can wait. So that helps. Also, that because we focus on quality articles, people start to realize, but if you read something in Acta Theologica, it is because of it's a quality publication. For example, in our review system, we use a grading system for the reviewers. They must grade as an A, which is new research, B, which is new and innovative, B, which is not, it makes a good contribution, and there is also an element of newness, and C, it's a good article, but there's no new contribution. So in essence, the reviewer does not say it's not publishable, but if it's a C, and if it's got a C, that it's not getting published. So in that sense, the focus on quality is something that we feel that authors will be attractive for them to know that if my article is published in Acta Theologica, that's a very good sign. And then we also try to have also personalized contact with the editorial team, that don't just work with automatic messages all the time. So in process-wise, there's a personalized contact. We have a quicker two-phase review process, and then the focus on quality articles is something that's helpful for authors to know, to be associated with it.
And speaking of the review process, I'm just curious, have you considered any other open practices in your journal, like open peer review?
No, we haven't considered that yet. We use double-blind peer review currently. I've heard about the practice of this open review system in the sense of the review afterwards, after being published, post-publication review, which I think is a valuable contribution one can make, and to have some discussions on the web, on the articles on your website, for example. So I think that is a route that we will want to take in the future. It can be valuable for the author for future consideration, and then it keeps the academic discussion alive, because publication is not just about getting something on your CV, it's about contributing to knowledge and discussing it with one another, and that post-publication review helps one to kind of explore the ideas more and maybe get some new angles, and then the possibility of maybe co-publishing with somebody new, and also interdisciplinary publishing, because I know that's something that's also important for our university. And in many places, interdisciplinary research is something that's really important, and that will be helpful, for example, for that.
Being an open access journal, do you think it's more challenging to publish an open access journal than a commercial journal?
Well, it can be more challenging in the sense that if the commercial journal, many of the commercial journals have copyright issues, in that sense that they don't give copyright to the author, but wants to keep it with them, because the commercial journals, they must get some revenue out of the article. So if they give the copyright to the author, they lose something. So I think in that sense it might be more challenging, because some of those thoughts and articles you want to rework again, and if you're not careful, you won't realize that some of those rights you've signed away to the commercial publishers. So that could be more challenging than it. I remember when I worked at the Department of Psychology a few years ago, that was some of the issues that some of those authors they had, that They couldn't publish on a specific theme again in any other journal except in that journal. So that really kind of hampered them in their research, because that can be the challenge of commercial publishers. The other challenge of open access publishing could be that people are afraid that open access might mean also predatory journals, in the sense that it's open access, so it's free to everybody, but then they might be afraid of the quality control, or that it's actually one of those infamous Beals list journals. So I think that is some of the challenges that some of the things that the author can think about if they're going, if they feel that if it's a one with, say, with some of these big publishing houses, they know it's a journal of great standing, and because it's associated with these specific publishing famous or infamous publishing houses. It can be the big publishers have quick processes in doing something, so it can sometimes be quicker, the review to get there, to be accepted, but to be published sometimes take a year or two. So many people want to publish in that journal that it takes you like 2 years or more to get it actually out in the open.
But the point is that in the end, it's about the quality, isn't it? Whether it's open access or not.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the fear that authors have, once you start publishing in accredited and credible open access journals, once you start realizing how to find them as well. I mean, I remember, what was it then, 10 years ago when we started with the open access office, well, not even 10 years ago at the library, that was the most talked about topic within open access. And the last few years, not so much.
Yeah, it's kind of people get used to it and realize, but it's a safe practice. Open access quality is not just ascribed to highly paid journals and commercial publishing houses.
So speaking of the costs, you have page fees.
Yes, we do have page fees. Our page fees are less expensive than some of the others in the country. So our page fees currently is 200 Rand plus VAT per page, so which is not that much.
No.
But that helps to cover some costs, etc. As all of the COFC accredited journals know, that we do receive much support from the research office in terms of the publishing costs, because you have the layout costs and you have the language editing and all kinds of costs. And usually the page fees are paid by the institution, not the author himself or herself. The institution, usually the department or somebody else, pays the page fees, and or they budget for it from their research allocation monies. But some research funds require that you must publish in open access journals. And then, then you must publish in open access journals because it's a requirement, and then you could use some of that money for the page fees.
You're an open access journal and you support open access, but is there anything specific that why your journal feels being open access is important,
Yeah. Well, some of the things we've already mentioned. Increased readership can increase your citations. And that definitely gives increased readership if you have open access. And as I said, visibility with that. The other thing is that one must think about the opportunity cost of non-open access, that you must take into consideration. That we've got many specialist non-academics, for example, in our field, pastors, with no academic institution that can pay for their subscription. And they will then miss out on the opportunity for the latest research in theology. And then also it's one of the requirements for us being indexed on CALO. And then sometimes, as you know, it's in terms of the research funder that for the authors that they must publish in open access journals. But I think for us, it's that increase of citations. It's good for the author, and of course, it's good for the impact factor of the journal. But I think it's for me more about distributing the knowledge than just about then rising your impact factor. I think that's the reason for research. It's not just for you to have something on your CV and to say, I've published this and this. It should influence society. And let's be honest, not many people read doctorate dissertations and all kinds of other high stuff. So it must be it must be out there for our specialist non-academics to read it, and as you said, then there is an opportunity to change policy, to change practice. But then more people must be able to read it, to apply it.
So you've been working for years on an open access journal and the editorial team. And if somebody wanted to start a new open access journal now or take an existing journal open access, is there any advice that you would give them?
First of all, usually the fears of people are regarding the finances, that you might lose income from subscription. I would first suggest that you look at your financial model, that you don't depend on the subscription for example, for publication or for most of your income, and that you use APCs in your financial model that can help you to make sure, or some society membership or something that can help you to publish open access. The other advice I would give is that you must have a clear peer review policy, because some people think that if it's open access, that might mean there's not really peer review and that is not much quality and it cannot be trusted. And then also on your copyright, that it's clear to them where the copyright lies. It doesn't really make so much sense to have copyright with a journal if it's an open access journal anyway. And you would rather have that author retain the copyright, and without coffee journals, it's actually, we do use the CC BY license, copyright remains with the author, because then that author can use more and more of his work and there will be more references to your journal. So copyright with the author is a good thing. And then the other thing is having a professional website, making a good impression. If you're on a website which is not professional, and it's open access, then it kind of people feel that maybe there's something not quite right here. So a professional website would also be good. And then lastly, apply to get included on DOAJ.